Hi guys, this is Dr. Marshall, and this is the first lecture for the first part of the discussion on external and internal directional and locational anatomy. Probably going to have to break this up into two parts, and each will have a couple of videos. But since you're watching the video, I'm assuming that you got here by going to the home page of the course and then going to assignments, and then going to external and internal directional anatomy, locational anatomy. Hopefully you have the worksheet in front of you, and you've also clicked on the Nearpod presentation to go to that, and you're watching the video. So I'm going to go to the Nearpod, and so we're at the start screen where you need to join the lesson, put your name in, you join the lesson, and just going to read through this introduction here real quick. The reason that you need to learn a lot of external and internal directional and locational terms is so that, especially in medical forensics, we can understand what a pathologist is talking about when they're talking about certain areas of the body, that certain wounds are on certain areas of the body. And so you have to have a pretty thorough understanding of this kind of anatomy. Some of these things you'll know from everyday usage because they've come into everyday usage, like posterior. You're all pretty much familiar with what that is. Other terms you'll have maybe some vague connection with some thing in your life that you've heard of before, and that'll make learning it easier. But there's going to be some of these terms that you're just going to have to just sit down and learn. But I'm confident that you can. So we're going to go to the next page. And by the way, in these videos, in order for you to do some kind of input on one of the pages, it'll probably be necessary for you to stop the video while you're actually doing that, because I'm going to just keep going on. But you can slow me down or stop me just simply by pausing the video and then starting it back up again when you're ready to. Okay, so in this screen, this is called the collaboration screen, and it's asking, what is a directional term? As it relates to the human body, what do you think the term directional term means? A directional term is a term that, and you need to come down here and have some input. I need to make some input so that I can move on from this slide. Otherwise, it won't let me, and I'm just going to say Marshall was here. And it'll post that. And so take a minute and think about it and make your own post here so that I can see it later on. But I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide here. We'll also have little quizzes as we go throughout a lot of these lessons, and the purpose of the quizzes is not so that I can grade you on something. The purpose of the quizzes is so I can find out what kind of information you already have, or information that you have as part of what we've looked at. So the score that you get on each of these little quizzes is not going to affect your participation grade at all. Okay, so which of the following is an incorrect feature of the anatomical position? And I'm going to answer one of the wrong answers. Body erect is actually a part of the standard anatomical position, so it's going to say that I got this wrong. We were looking for an incorrect feature. Okay, you can see down here that it showed that palms facing towards the midline was the incorrect feature. So our learning target for this discussion, at least this first part of the discussion, you'll be able to provide a correct statement of the anatomical position. The anatomical position is the frame of reference from which all other statements of anatomical position and relationship are taken. This is why you need to know this, and we'll see just exactly what that means here in a minute. And then students will be able to state or write a correct statement of the features of the standard anatomical position. So I need you to be able to do that. Okay. Now, this is the first paragraph of our notes, our class notes that you can find on Canvas, the standard anatomical position. And I'm asking you to, using the highlighting tool, highlight one word in this paragraph that you think is the most important. So read through this paragraph and And when you find a word that you think, hey, that sounds like the most important word in this paragraph, I want you to highlight it. I need to highlight something, just something, so it'll let me pass on here. It won't let me go on unless I highlight. So I highlighted something. Pause the video, take a minute, and figure out what the correct term is to answer. Okay, so I think the most important word here in this paragraph is precise. One of the reasons we have so many specialized terms is that we need to be very, very precise in our descriptions. And having the precision is provided by so many specialized terms. Otherwise, they get very, very difficult if we're trying to describe something. It takes too long, and it's very unclear when we're trying to use lots of words to describe a very precise thing anatomically, and you could just use one word to describe it, and that would be a lot better. Okay? So, here's an open-ended question. I have typed out the second paragraph here of the class notes, and the last statement here is asking you to write down a question or write down an answer. In what particular circumstance will having an anatomical reference point make it easier to avoid confusion? So read through the paragraph and see if you can identify the circumstance where having an anatomical reference point will make it easier to avoid confusion. Okay, I'm going to go on while you're doing that. Oh, I've got to write something here. It won't let me go. Marshall was here. And so the last sentence in the paragraph is the sentence that's the important one. Having such a reference point will make it easier to avoid confusion, particularly when describing anatomic structures will depend on how a particular body part is held in space. So if I hold my hand like this versus like this versus like this versus like this, there are several different ways that I can hold my hand, and depending on which way I held my hand, the front or back surface of my hand would be a different thing. Okay, so we need to have this reference that we're going to come up with here to guide us as to how we're going to state what is what. Now, in order to answer these questions here or fill in the blanks here, I'm going to need to type things out, but it's very difficult to type things out on these Nearpod slides, so I'm going to use the notes feature. You can actually take notes while you're watching a lecture here. And to do that, they'll ask you to send the notes to an email or to Google Drive or to OneDrive. I'm going to have them send my notes to my email address, j.marshall@summitacademyschools.org. Okay, so I'm not really needing to send myself those notes. I'm just making it so that I can type words in here and you can see them so you know what goes in the blanks. Okay, so the term used to describe the back surface of an anatomic structure is posterior. Okay, and if you were to stand up and simply hold your arms loosely at your sides with your hand in a natural, comfortable position, I'm going to ask you which surface of the hand would be considered the posterior surface. And so if you stand up in a natural position, this surface of your hand right here is going to be the posterior surface. That's what's going to be facing backwards. So the edge of your hand along the little finger will be that surface. On the other hand, if you stand with your palms facing towards the front, which surface of the hand would be considered the posterior surface? And that's going to be the side opposite the palm. Okay, the side opposite the palm is going to be the posterior surface. On the other hand, if you stood with your palms facing backwards, which would not be an unreasonable thing, then the palm would be the posterior surface. Okay, so you can see that depending on which way I hold my hand, the posterior surface becomes something completely different. And this is going to cause some confusion. So what we need is a reference. Okay, so we define a standard anatomical position. And that's going to be that thing that goes in blank 5 here. We define a standard anatomical position. So our terms are defined by this reference. So a couple of questions here. Which of the 3 hand positions do you think it would make the most sense to use as the standard position? And I'm going to give you the wrong answer here. I'm going to say the edge of the hand along the little finger facing forward. That's going to be weird, isn't it? It's almost impossible to hold your hand that way. Oh, actually, it's not. And then the next question is, so no matter what position we hold, the blank surface will always be considered the posterior surface. So if I'm consistent, I'm going to say the edge of the hand along the little finger, and both of these answers should be wrong. Okay, so I got 0 out of the correct answers. And so the edge, palm facing forward, is the correct position, and the back surface of the hand, the side opposite the palm, will be the one that's always going to be considered posterior. Okay, so we're going to define a standard anatomical position, and I don't need you to draw or write down anything related to this. It's right here. Your body is erect, the feet are parallel, and that means facing towards the front. Your arms are hanging at your side, and your palms are going to be facing forward. So those are the 4 features, and my expectation is that you'll know these, okay? Because you will be tested on them. So as part of your submission for this discussion, I want you to have someone take a picture of you in the standard anatomical position and submit the image file as part of your submission for this lesson. Okay? Also, a note on drawings. We're going to make a lot of drawings in this class. Making and labeling drawings and practicing making these drawings from a blank sheet of paper is one of the best ways to incorporate these terms and their meanings into your memory. Okay? It's so easy to just sit down and practice by drawing these things. These won't need to be high quality art drawings, and in fact it's better if you don't waste a lot of time making them perfect, just good enough to help you learn. So when we're making these drawings, I'll give you a blank sheet of paper, demonstrate what I'm looking for, then ask you to draw it, and then we will label the drawing as we learn the terms. Okay? Now, let's see. Okay, so I'm going to stop this video right here. These videos need to just they can only take 15 minutes, so we have to split these things up, and this is good for you as well, so that you don't get overwhelmed. But there will probably be 2 more videos for the first part of this discussion. And so go ahead and shut this video off and go to the next one.